Thank you, Senator Brasso. Congress enacted the Outer Continental Shelves Land Act primarily to facilitate the federal government's leasing of its offshore minerals resources and energy resources. In this law, Congress stated expressly that offshore resources should be made available for expeditious and offshore resources and development, orderly development. Ms. Lefton, what assurances will you give us that BOEM will not impose burdensome stipulations that make new leases economically unacceptable and therefore effectively unavailable for development, contrary to clear congressional intent?
Well, certainly the OXLA is our governing statute that guides our work and our decisions, and something we take very seriously. As I said in my opening, our mission really is to develop the outer continental shelf resources in an environmentally and economically sustainable way. So when we approach our work, whether it's marine minerals, conventional oil and gas, renewable energy, no matter what the resource, we certainly ensure that that's guided by science, and that's also guided by a balance of our responsibilities under OXLA, and we will absolutely commit to continuing to do that.
Thank you. The Department of Interior must go through multiple environmental analyses before a lease can even be awarded. Offshore oil and gas facilities maintain one of the smallest environmental footprints compared to onshore facilities and other industries, including transportation. Because the United States has strict regulations and the advancements in technology through industry continue to reduce the environmental footprint from offshore production, why should we stop progress on being energy independent and once again rely on foreign production that is both unsafe and less environmentally conscious? And I'll start with you, and I will ask all to respond.
Well, as you probably heard from my testimony previously, I totally agree with that position, and you're right. These centralized facilities really reduce the footprint, and we can drill wells off of one facility out to a radius of 3 miles or 4 miles, but then we'd also hook up a subsea well that's 30 or 40 or 50 miles away and bring that onto that central facility. It's that small footprint that allows us to really manage our greenhouse gases.
Captain Holmes?
So that's a great point about the consolidation of the different facilities. For the numbers that are out there over the years, they've definitely shrunk. About 100, 150 each year are being decommissioned offshore. Back in the day, there were about 5,500 facilities, and right now there are less than 1,800 that are active offshore. And so just this decreasing of the footprint of what you actually physically see on the surface is one of the ways. Also, with technology over the years, it's really allowed us to minimize the amount of emissions that are occurring, and then we continue to look at ways of how we can do that safely as well.
Thank you, Senator, for the question. Obviously, getting back to what you asked, I don't think we should move in the direction that would cause us to move away from exploration and production in the Gulf in a way that would undermine our national security, our energy independence, and damage the environment. I just think it's very clear that if we do that, there will be more, not less, greenhouse gas emissions. And so the proposition that we can clean up our environment by potentially not continuing to explore and produce in the Gulf, I think is ill-founded, and so we certainly shouldn't do that.
Ms. Lefton?
It's such a thoughtful question, Senator. As I think about my response, maybe sort of starting globally, we know that climate change is a crisis that's before us now. And we know that in order for us to combat climate change, in order to reduce risks to states like Louisiana and many others that we've talked about today, we know we need to transition away from oil and gas. Having said that, that's something that needs to be done to reduce demand. And as we as a country reduce demand for oil and gas, we can then, of course, fight climate change. As we think about our continued reliance on oil and gas, I think we have already acknowledged here today that there's a lot of existing acreage that's under lease in the Gulf of Mexico, and also I don't want to speak for my colleagues on land, but also in our federal lands as well. And so I expect that we're going to see continued production and exploration of those resources for years to come with what is already out there. I think over time, as we transition, we have a really important responsibility to ensure that we're doing this to fight climate change. And I just want to note, we've talked about energy security And I think another form of energy security and domestic energy is things like offshore wind. The majority of the people in the United States live in coastal cities. Let's produce power that's near those people and ensure that we're improving our energy security as a nation.
Thank you, and I yield back my time.